As promised, Q&A. Thank you all for the active participation and dragging my butt to 3000 subs, and if you are new here and somehow found this video first, hey, watch my garbage. Gonna take the questions in order of appearance, but skip some repeats, so bear that in mind if you're jumping around just to see the answer to what you posted. My question is kinda basic, but I'm still curious. What made you want to make YouTube videos? Vanity, pandemic, job dissatisfaction, Disco Elysium, Pathologic 2. In 2020, I was at the tail end of my education, working full-time as a translator for a shitty company that imported electronics from China, slapped a logo on them and claimed they are their design. They also never made me sign an NDA, so if any of you all find this channel, go fuck yourselves. I hope you go under. Though, considering none of the management turned up on time to the English classes they slapped on top of my prior responsibilities, they probably won't get what I'm saying. Anyway, I have a huge ego and like talking. I wanted to at least start sowing seeds of some minor emancipation from being OAG. I've also been screaming about Pathologic from rooftops for 5 years at that point and decided that videos get more traction than tweets, so I should someday try that, especially as the professional reviews for Patho 2 were god-awful dog shit. But it was Disco Elysium that finally got me to go, you know what, this is beautiful and I want to say something about it. So I got Vegas of Humble, set up a garbage microphone and got recording. The first 2 videos I made are dog shit and I remade them, but you can still access them if you wanna find out. Now it's just inertia. Making videos is what I do. I feel bad if a new project is not at the back of my mind. Maybe something new will jerk me in a different direction someday, but not anytime soon. Why? Not why have a Q&A, just overall about everything. Why? Gonna be rude and answer a question with a question. Why not? Life is a constant process, an ever-changing action and reaction. I want to see where it takes me, no matter whether it is wonderful or gut-wrenchingly horrifying. Stasis is boring, and I will do everything in my power to avoid boredom. If the question is related to why is there something and not nothing, I would say that's a version of the survivorship bias. Avoid does not ask questions, it's too boring for that. We've got some good scientific theories about how the universe and life started, and I'm in no position of authority to make claims beyond what they say. Thoughts on all the stuff we already know about Pathologic 2 Bachelor route. I'm excited. I hope they are able to take the time relativism shenanigans from conceptual to gameplay in an interesting way, not just some in media res that obscures the truth. I have trust in the studio, and they have my support, and I hope we'll be able to get our hands on it within my lifetime. Especially considering the political situation and the peculiar situation it puts a Russian-based studio in, especially considering they condemned the invasion on the very day it happened. What is your favorite soup? This and anything else you say may be used against you in court. It's Żurek, which is a Polish sour rice soup. Basically, you add a diluted sourdough starter to a stock, spice it up with horseradish, boil potatoes in it, and then throw a shitload of marjoram in. Serve with white sausage and egg. You can probably get the starter in a Polish store if there's any nearby, and if not, it's literally just whole rye flour, water and a few days of waiting. I'll try to find some English video with a recipe and link it in the description. I'm also a big fan of borscht or barszcz in Polish, but only on Christmas. What's the story behind your channel's name? In school and university, my process for writing assignments, aside from actual research reports when I was studying psych, was to read the task, have it simmer in my head for the full duration of the prep time, and then do the whole work a day before the deadline. It's still very much the case with the videos, except I set the deadlines myself. It also turned out to be suicide from a marketing perspective, because there are a lot of videos on how to organize their shit to write essays, but if I ever make it big, I'll just pretend it was to make sure I got there purely by virtues of how good my stuff is, like Kesoku Band. The truth is, I suffer from irony addiction and I thought naming myself "this shit was done haphazardly and without much thought" is funny. About Limbus Company, which sinner so far is your favorite and why? And which book that the sinners are based off is your favorite too? Ryoshu can abbreviate me, as expected. I'm also surprised how much I like Heathcliff, given the source material. Despite being a brush hothead, the guy actually has a moral backbone. And Gregor is just an all-around bestie. As for the source materials, I really love Crime and Punishment. From the stuff I had to read up for the video, I was surprised how captivating Hellscreen was as well, considering I knew the plot before even reading the first sentence. Faith Childhood Game. Well, if we count anything before 18 as childhood, I've been a child longer than I've been an adult, so there's gonna be a few. I really loved Crash Team Racing as a kid, replayed Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 dozens of times each, can probably quote Grim Fandango from memory, I've played hundreds of hours of Impression Games City Builders, same deal with Devil May Cry 4's Bloody Palace. Shoutouts to Fallout 2 as well, considering that game is the main reason why I speak English. What are the best ascension techniques and which of the sisters is the best for that? There's the infinite void of tactics and this uncertainty tensioning me apart. The biggest cargo on my shoulders. God damn it, Max. It's simple. The best ascension technique is to leave everyone to die and achieve the state of Turgor purely for your own sake. If you are the one accelerating the rot, you might as well see things through. Look, I swear I will make a video on the Void someday, but having to manually draw the symbols when my dysgraphic ass can't even maintain a consistent handwriting style is a challenge. Which bad/ruined game would you like to see remade as good/perfect? Like some game which did not live up to expectations or game where developers went bankrupt in the middle of making it. I still think that the core ideas behind Alone in the Dark 2008, the interplay of relying on fire while also being helpless against it, as well as the inventory juggling with some light crafting, has a lot of potential, but they would need to scrap anything past the conceptual stage because the game itself sucks ass. As for games that never came out, I want to see the code that Ice Peak Lodge was doodling with before scrapping the idea, this idea of a multi-generational story in a dead world. Aside from that, I would like to see the Final Fantasy that Eidos Montreal was working on, even if my goodwill for the studio burned away with FIF. The idea of aesthetics based on fractals sounds rad, and I would like to see it in action, even if everything else about it would not be to my tastes. And speaking of Eidos, the third entry to the Adam Jensen trilogy, like, come on man. These games are not storytelling masterpieces or anything, but being left on a cliffhanger is cold. Are there any more detailed Limbus videos planned? Oh, definitely, but not anytime soon. For one, I would feel bad promoting a game still working its kinks out, like, say, the fact I had to set my PC and phone to American English to even play it, as those bugs and feature tweaking might drive some people away if they don't share my obsessive enthusiasm. Second, I want at least one payoff to the build-up given so far in the story. The 3 chapters we got so far are great, and I have full confidence in Progmoon's ability to cook, but I've also watched Moffat's run of Doctor Who ongoing, so I got burned on endless cock-teasing not leading to anything 1 times too many to ever again give my opinions on stories before I see their climax. What was your most emotional event in the past, or the event/period which completely changed your life? First thing that comes to mind is my wedding, but that wasn't really a change, just a wonderful celebration of something that has been true for years. Still got emotional going through the photos and watching the video recording though. And I got a chance to catch up with some family members and friends I have not seen face to face in years. But aside from that, it wasn't really an emotional thing, but my older cousins moving to America. They're pretty much the root cause of all my interests, introducing me to games, comics, manga, role-playing, board games. I wouldn't meet the people I met if not for them. And one day they were just gone, both to make a living in a country with a much better economic situation, but also to dodge the military draft, which was still a thing over here back then. I was kinda aimless and I tried so hard to spread myself over the internet fora to find a similar connection with others. And looking back, boy, I sure was an asshole when I became the oldest kid of the extended family. What you dreamed about as a kid/teenager? Have you thrown away that dream or not? And what is your dream now? Oh man, I actually wanted to become a private detective. We had a humongous collection of Donald Duck comics, as they were published weekly here in Poland, and they also always had a few pages dedicated to these little mystery stories with "Wow, how did Mickey know that?" Turn the page upside down to find out. And I loved the feeling of figuring it out so much. I still do. But as I grew up, it turned out PIs primarily stalk cheating spouses, so I dropped the idea. As a teen, I wanted to be a coroner. But then it turned out that you need to be a real doctor first. I specifically wanted to work with corpses to avoid the weight of potentially killing someone because something slipped my mind, so that career path got crossed out too. 3 years of extended biology and chemistry classes in high school, only for me to end up as a humanities nerd. Life is a goddamn riot, isn't it? Currently, I want to reach as many people as I can, both those alive now and those who arrive after, to have them argue about me long after I'm dead. I'm incredibly vain, and trying to suppress that brings nothing but frustration, so here I am. And on a smaller scale, it would be nice to have that vanity get food on my table, cause boy, corporate office work is mind-numbing. Was that true? Yeah. Assuming that you play Ultrakill, highest wave achieved in Cybergrind. First of all, thanks for giving me an idea of what to use for this video's background footage. I did play Ultrakill and it's a fantastic game, really looking forward to Act 3. I never played much of Cybergrind, but as of this video's publication, my highest wave reached is 11. Man, the style just evaporated from my body in the time I spent not playing this game daily, huh? How'd you choose the names you did? Last minute SS Tiduido. For LME, see previous answer to that question. For Tidu, the answer is Final Fantasy X. I was the kind of kid who used fictional character names online, one of them clearly stuck. I dropped the S to claim it as my own. The additional Idu was added due to a running joke on old voice chat where people said Tidu or such when addressing me, and I thought it's funny. Plus it's entirely unique if Google isn't lying to me. Do you believe in the existence of some sort of higher being that controls our fate? Or do you think that humans are the only ones who carve their path? Alright, so there's this thing called the ontological argument for the existence of God, which went through some iterations and famous names, but the basis of it as formulated by Saint Anselm goes as follows. Think of a being so great that no greater can be conceived. If that being does not exist, then I can conceive of a being greater than that, namely, one with the same greatness that exists. A being even greater than that cannot be imagined. Hence, a being that which no greater can be conceived exists. I have no counter-argument to it, especially as I touted how non-existence is boring a few minutes ago. For any being to be truly perfect, it has to exist. However, I don't think it takes much of an active interest in us, if any at all. Even considering the likelihood of there being several layers of demiurges between us and said perfection, be it in the mystical or simulation approach, I don't think the demiurges care either. Too much of our intellectual and spiritual legacy is rooted in humanity being big fish in a very small pond, with the sheer scale of the universe, both spatially and temporally, only showing itself to us recently. Which is not to say I'm about to start retweeting Neil deGrasse Tyson about how celebrating New Year is fucking pointless, but some humility is long overdue. This also extends to the carving our own path bit. We do not. There are millions of factors at play every moment, each pointing somewhere else, and the direction towards which we move is ultimately just the vector resulting from all those forces. My free will is only one of those tiny arrows on a graph, and my gas pipes exploding all of a sudden point in the opposite direction, cancelling said will out. I also don't intend to subscribe to any organization telling me what is good and bad for my soul. These are political bodies, and I ain't giving away what limited power I have over my essence of being. It's mine. Knife in hand, I will find anyone laying claim on it. And if I die, and there is more than oblivion past it, I will do the same. So yeah, as far as HR at my work is concerned, I'm penned in as atheist. You have to wrestle one of people who had the biggest influence on you intellectually. What injuries would both of you sustain, if any? Diogenes would slit my throat with a pottery shard. With Foucault, I would probably have the upper hand as he wears glasses. I could probably win with some bruises against all the teachers I ever had. With my parents, I'm taller than my dad, but he started working out like 10 years ago, so he would probably beat my ass. Mom's in a losing position though. These are the first ideas that come to mind. I kinda struggle to bring up anyone having influence over me, because while they surely do, I'm self-centered enough to pretty much always go, cool, now let's put my own spin on it, and never really treated anyone as an authority figure. What Polish dish is your favorite? Aside from Żurek mentioned before, I'm a big fan of our take on pancakes, pierogi, and them all lazy dumplings. The number one spot for a favorite, however, goes to Mom made too many kotlety schabowe and now I'm gonna spend the rest of the week slapping one on a slice of bread. Do you like fighting games? And if yes, which you like the most? I love the aesthetics of them and I played a lot of Tekken 3 as a kid, but I'm ultimately terrible at them. My brain goes full angabanga and I overshoot directional inputs constantly. Favorite overall, both in feeling of play and aesthetics, is probably Guilty Gear X2. Do you think about making video about No More Heroes 2 or other games or media where you only talk about only one part of that series? Yes, definitely. I intend to emulate Flower, Sun and Rain before getting to 25th World this year for sure. I also want to cover No More Heroes in its entirety, I just keep getting distracted by cool shit. Probably not gonna do a video on Silent Hills other than 2 though. What is your favorite season? And you're great. Late spring to early summer, fresh strawberries, sunflowers, amazing tomatoes and other vegetables aplenty, as well as plenty of sunlight. December is always hell for me because of vitamin D deficiency. And thank you, I really appreciate it. How do you find most media you consume? Well, there are several factors. One, I'm old and you tend to grow tired of seeing the same things over and over. There are still huge gaps in my, let's say, cinematic and musical education though. Two, I had access to a bunch of now obscure games through the power of magazines with discs attached to them and my cousins telling me how piracy works. Didn't beat most of them, but it sure made me aware of how big the playing field truly is. Third, I'm very and publicly loud about the above, which leads people to recommend stuff they are passionate about, but which may have less than mainstream appeal. Which is to say, really, I stumble upon them and if I like something well enough, I start screaming from rooftops about it. If you could remake one janky obscure game and fix all the bugs with it, which one would it be? It's not obscure, and it was already remade, but please someone give Planescape Torment the Final Cut treatment and give it full voice acting. More to the point of the question, there is a duology of survival games from the 90s, Robinson's Requiem and Deus, which had this hard-ass approach to the idea of survival. Your HUD was diegetic and could need new batteries. You could lose limbs or eyes with it affecting gameplay in the expected ways. You had to adjust your equipment to the ambient temperature, etc. Games with those kinds of systems are not unheard of, Unreal World and such exist, but these two were entirely in first-person perspective, and I'd love to see a remake that doesn't run like molasses. As a fellow Gloranta fan, I have to ask, what are your thoughts on the Dark Sun D&D setting? I'm asking because it's my second favorite fantasy setting. Sadly, I never got too in-depth with Dark Sun. What I heard of it sounds like my shit. The idea of a heroic campaign in a dying world, with some forms of magic giving easy power by draining the already rare life away is cool as shit, but I never ran it or read that much about it. Off the top of your head, which piece of literature would you base a new LC Sinner? Master and Margarita by Mikhail Afanasievich Bulhakov, specifically Behemoth. Just a hawk-sized cat walking on two legs, playing chess, drinking vodka, smoking and just being unbearably smug. Perfect Sinner material, and the bus needs a mascot after all. If you were to make an inhuman screech, positive and negative, at the mere mention of a game, which two would it be? Positive like "ah" would probably be pathologic. Anyone mentioning it within my earshot means I'm in good company. Negative like "bleh" would be, I guess, LA Noire? I generally do not understand the hold that title has over people's brains. It's horrible as a game of deduction, the plot is a series of forgettable episodes of a TV procedural, even the aesthetics don't do it for me, and I snort noir stories and cynical cops with badly fitting hats like they're gonna make me see pixies. I tried to like it several times, but I just feel nothing but a wet, slightly molding kitchen towel in my heart whenever I think about it. Also, do you have a particular food you wish you could have/make more often? Fresh sunflower seeds are only available for like 2 months in a year and it fucking sucks. The dried, salted ones are a completely different experience and taste. As for making, potato pancakes, or I guess they're called hash browns in English. Love eating them. I'm not great in raw potatoes, it sucks. Can I get back to you later on this one? No, gun to your head. What is your favorite, not most played or best at, but favorite, class and strategy in TF2? I haven't played TF2 almost at all, unfortunately. At the game's heyday, I was living in the middle of the forest and my internet connection came in the form of a mobile phone connected to my PC and serving as a 3G router, so any multiplayer was out of the question. From what little I played after moving out and the game going free to play, I like heavy, because Daka is always good. Have you tried watching any Gundams? I watched Wing as a child because it was on late night TV over here, back to back with stuff like Bebop and the records of Lodoss War. I loved it. I think it was the very first piece of media I got into that was about war, politics, and that tried to truly humanize both sides of a conflict. Looking back, it ain't that deep, but to me it was. I really want to watch the original series someday, but the idea needs to brew in my head a little longer before I actually do it. Is there any type of content you would like to try making but feel tied by the expectations? I've been mulling over a voice-acted recreation of Lobotomy Corporation's plot, but no approach I take is satisfying me so far. The issue with how this game is structured is that it's a series of monologues, so I would be asking people to read uninterrupted walls of text, and without having that broken up by gameplay, it would get tiring. I still want to do it, but the script itself requires way more work than I anticipated. Aside from that, I would like to touch upon other media like books or movies from time to time, but in the former case I would need to get crafty with editing or get around Sona, and in the latter case I fear the copyright spiders on this website. Rate Limbus Company out of 10. The date format on my computer is now incorrect and it's driving me mad out of 10. Other than that, solid 9. The thing you hate most about Limbus Company, personally, I don't like how you can't manually target during human fights. Why can't they all be like abnormality fights? Bugs forcing me to include several asterisks when recommending it, especially the unintentional region locking. Also, several passives and status effects seem to not work as intended currently, primarily paralyzes. And I would agree that the chain mode should be a toggle, not the only option in human fights. Also, what is that dancing skeleton in the background and where do I get it? It's from the music video of the song Die in the Disco by Nightclub. Before the Limbus Company games graced your life with meaning, what would you say was the series / franchise / whatever that you stunned the most? Bonus points if it's some obscure shit nobody knows about. My man, I hyperfixate, that's what I do. And I'll fucking do it again. In no particular chronological order, I've been so normal about Pathologic, Metal Gear Solid, Umine Koronako Koroni, Kaiji, Harvest Moon / Rune Factory, Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Einstürzen the New Button, Disco Elysium, Nier, Berserk, Vampire the Masquerade and World of Darkness as a whole, Fate Stay Night, Great Teacher Onizuka, and Neverwinter Night's Persistent World multiplayer. Bonus points to the last one for being How I Met My Wife. Do you have any games that somehow changed your life / worldview? Change is a long process and often happens years after a seed is planted, and as I'm a dumbass, it's difficult for me to draw a direct connection between observing a change in myself and what I played before that. Most obviously, Pathologic made me way more obnoxious, and Valhalla gave me some hope in life at the lowest point in my life, so far. Games you always wanted to get into but failed to do so far. Is there any game series you wanted to get into but just haven't been able to due to time or something else? Devoid, which is on my must review list, but goddammit does it hate me and my inability to draw shapes with a mouse. Arx Fatalis 2, for very similar reasons. I also got into Zachtronics games like Space Cam and Opus Magnum, but my brain is too smooth to beat any of them. I can't think in more than a single thread when focusing on a problem and get tunnel vision, so I get halfway through and tap out. 10/10 would recommend amazing games. Will you cover Witch on the Holy Night or any other Type Moon games in the future? Not saying no to the idea, and I would like to just go wild about the Fate Stay Night visual novel someday, but it's not on the docket of ideas I want to do soon at the moment. If Type Moon and Project Moon magically made a collab game, would it be the ultimate Fidu core? No, I like Type Moon stuff, but aside from Stay Night and Zero, I never got as deep into it as it can go. And despite similarities, Type Moon pulls historical figures out of their time or hops around timelines, whereas Project Moon uses literary and historic references while telling its own linear narrative. Favorite game in category of I know it's bad but I like it anyways. None, because everything I like is objectively good, for I am the arbiter of all taste. Favorite game OSTs: Nier Gestalt, Drakengard 1, Hotline Miami, Hitman Blood Money. What's your favorite bad game? Games that either didn't cook for long enough or just were underwhelming. Possibly games that resonated with you despite a lackluster story, or possibly the other way around. A good modern example might be Soul Hackers 2 if you've seen SMT related stuff, etc. Hope you're having a great day. Everything I like is good, but the title edging it closest to the brink is probably Hotline Miami 2. I love the atmosphere of it, I love the little stories it gave everyone, but man am I never replaying that game unlike one. Though speaking of SMT, I guess that also applies to Persona 2 Innocent Sin, since I genuinely love that game, but man did I not even try to engage in side content. It definitely helps it's like 20 hours long, not 100 like P3 onwards. Type Moon or Project Moon. Project Moon gave me 3 games I adore and I just finished reading Wonderlap, which is amazing as well. Type Moon gave me Rin Tosaka. So in conclusion, it's a very strong stalemate. When are you going to release a 3-hour video about the masterpiece of Death Stranding? When I actually play it. I feel stupid cause I bought it when it came out on PC, Director's Cut upgrade and all, but never actually launched it. And I'm very fond of Kojima bullshit, it's just, I don't know, other things seemed more interesting so far. What is your biggest gaming letdown in terms of things that are still good but not as good as you anticipated? Fallout 3 comes to mind? My 15-year-old brain did not understand that such a big time gap means that completely different people are gonna work on it, and after the initial hype died off, I just got bored of it. Bethesda actually make me use a weapon different than the one I found 2 hours into the game challenge. Impossible. In a very similar time frame, BioShock was, and still is, praised to high heavens, and while I think it's an okay game with banger aesthetics, I genuinely don't know why everyone is treating it like the second coming of Gamer Christ. Fun meetup when? I'm willing to get a beer with anyone that recognizes me at a con, but I ain't going out of my way to meet people. What would be your opening line / catchphrase as a Vidia boss? Hard mode, no obvious picks like I've got a bone to pick with ya as a skeleton. I'll side with Arthur from the tick here and say my warcry shall be not the face! Not the face! If you could develop one game in Gloranta universe, what would it be? Where situated, what would it contain within the sense of the world building, factions, tribal communities, whole cities, temples, races, etc. Don't have to be anything like King of Dragon Pass or 6 Ages, go wild with the shape. Strategy games, racing games, Way of the Samurai-like, etc. The basic bitch answer is just us getting the RuneQuest tabletop adaptation into CRPG with slightly less spontaneous self-decapitation. I would say maybe around the time starts, so that there is this sense of high fantasy being just behind us, without making coding the in-game clock itself be a nightmare. Just let me roll a duck and slap a timer on his mortality that is clearly and infuriatingly easy to see at every moment of play. Other than that, 4X strategy in the vein of a Total Warhammer, shortly after the creation of the Lunar Empire, cause I want to summon the Crimson Bat to chaos the shit up upon my enemies. Last and least, my evil doppelganger asks, when can we expect a good video? Never!